The world of Yinthalara had always been known for its calm blue skies, crystal plains, and gentle winds that sang through its silver forests. For countless generations, the Yinthal people lived in harmony with the land, believing their home would protect them forever. But the planet had changed. The ground groaned with new fractures, the air buzzed with unstable storms, and huge shimmering waves rose in the atmosphere, spreading unpredictable distortion fields that made half their technology fail without warning. The crisis grew so fast that no one could ignore it any longer. From the highest room in the Yinthal Grand Council Tower, Elder Ceres moved slowly to the wide round window. Her long, ribbon-like tendrils fluttered behind her, changing colors with each emotion she tried to hide. Below, the capital city shimmered as emergency lamps glowed across the skylines. Shield nets sparked in white bursts as they struggled against the rising storms. She breathed out softly. "If the nets fail again, we will lose the western quarters." Behind her, members of the High Council murmured nervously. Their voices were soft and musical, but fear had made their tones sharp. Engineers, star scholars, and defense leaders all filled the room, each one hoping someone else had a solution, but no one did. Counselor Trevi, a smaller Yinthal with pale blue skin, stepped forward. "The storms are spreading faster. The readings show unstable atmospheric pockets forming even near the poles. We have never documented anything like this." "Skora, and the quakes?" another asked. Trevi lowered his gaze. "Worse. The last one opened a 40-click rift near the ocean shelf. If the core shifts again, we cannot predict how much damage the planet will take." A long silence followed. Everyone in the room knew what that meant. Their world might be dying. Elder Ceres turned from the window, her voice steady though her skin flickered with distress. "We must send the beacon again." There were protests at once. "But we already sent it twice." No one answered. "You know the other empires will not come." Ceres listened, but her expression never changed. "Then we send it a third time. And if no one answers again, we will send it a fourth." A dying world does not stop calling for help simply because no one listens. The room fell quiet out of respect. At last, the beacon engineer, Elder Ralith, stepped forward. His tendrils shimmered with caution. "If we send it at full strength, the message may reach far beyond our region of space, even unknown territories." Ceres nodded. "Then let it." Ralith hesitated. "There are rumors, Elder. Old ones. About strange species beyond the mapped sectors. Especially one group near the dark spiral arm. A species the galaxy calls," he lowered his voice, "Deathworlders." Soft whispers moved across the room like wind. Even the calmest counselors stiffened. The stories were old, unclear, and mostly shaped by fear. A species that evolved on a world so dangerous that everything in their environment tried to kill them. A species that survived extremes that would crush any normal being. Some legends described them as unpredictable, wild, even reckless. Others said they were brave, but none of the counselors had ever met one. Ceres gave a small nod. "If such a species exists, then perhaps they understand danger better than any other. And if they do not exist, then the stories do not matter." Trevi looked uncertain. "But what if the rumors are true? What if they bring more trouble than aid?" Elder Ceres placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Fear cannot guide us now. Our world needs help. If the great empires will not answer, then we must welcome any who hear us, no matter what the stories say." With that, the council gave their agreement. The beacon would be sent. The beacon hall, located at the edge of the capital, was a grand circular structure that stretched high into the sky. Inside, the entire floor vibrated with soft hums as engineers prepared the ancient message array, a device built generations ago, designed for emergencies no one believed would ever arrive. Lights flickered across the towering pillars. Holographic screens came alive. Energy panels shifted in long arcs, charging with pale blue light. Ralith moved between his technicians, giving calm instructions. "Increase pulse stability. Strengthen the signal coils. No fluctuations." A young engineer paused, her eyes wide. Elder, are you certain we want the pulse to go this far? It may reach sectors that have never seen our kind. Ralith gave a weak smile. If that is where help lives, then yes. A deep tone vibrated through the hall as all systems locked into alignment. Beacon ready, the central technician announced. Elder Saris stepped forward. Begin transmission. The beacon flared to life. A wave of shining light pulsed upward, splitting into billions of encoded signals. The message carried everything: the coordinates of Yin Thalara, a summary of the planetary crisis, and a single, earnest plea. We request assistance. Any who hear us, please help. The pulse vanished into the sky, racing past the shield nets, through the storm layers, and into open space. The council watched until the beam faded. Trevi broke the silence first. Do you think anyone will answer? Saris kept her gaze on the sky. I do not know. But we have done all we can. Now we wait. Days passed. The storms worsened. The shield nets flickered dangerously. New ground fractures appeared under several cities, causing mass evacuations but no casualties. The people moved with calm discipline, though fear quietly spread through the population. Every night, the Grand Council gathered in the observation hall, watching the skies for any sign of incoming aid. And every night, they saw only the same storms swirling above them, until one night, everything changed. Trevi burst into the council room, breathing hard. A signal, someone answered. The entire chamber erupted in shock. Saris rose from her seat at once. From which empire? The Vathan Alliance? The Kalari? One? Trevi shook his head. Neither. The signature pattern is unfamiliar. Extremely unfamiliar. Show us, Saris ordered. He activated the holoprojector. A strange, simple symbol appeared, a circular emblem split by a single bold line. The logo had no elegant curves, no soft colors. None of the gentle artistic style common across peaceful civilizations. It looked sharp, sturdy, and direct. A design made for clarity, not beauty. The message played. A voice firm, calm, and extremely foreign spoke in translated speech. This is Captain Rowan Hale of the human exploratory vessel Radiant Horizon. We received your distress beacon. We are en route. Estimated arrival: 18 hours. The room went silent. No one spoke. Trevi swallowed. Did it say human? Elder Saris's tendrils glowed in slow waves of shock. The Deathworlders, she whispered. Ralith stepped closer to the holo image, studying the strange emblem again. They do exist. And they heard us. Some counselors stepped back nervously. Others stared with curiosity. A few looked relieved simply that anyone was coming. Trevi cleared his throat. We do not know what they want. We do not know what they are capable of. The legends are unclear. Saris nodded. Yes, but they answered. That alone makes them different from all others. She turned toward the tall, round window, watching the dark sky above the city. Storm lights shimmered like restless spirits. The world trembled faintly beneath their feet. In 18 hours, she said softly, our future may change. While the council prepared for the arrival of their unknown visitors, the people of Yin Thalara whispered countless questions. Some were afraid. Others were hopeful. Many wondered what a Deathworlder looked like. Did they have monstrous strength, strange bodies, wild tempers, or were they simply misunderstood? No one knew. But the beacon hall received a second brief transmission a few hours later. Approaching your outer orbit. Our intentions are peaceful. Preparing for landing coordinates. Again, the voice was steady and clear. Saris felt something warm settle in her chest, something she hadn't felt since the crisis began. Hope. We will greet them, she declared. Whatever these humans are, they came when no one else did. For that alone they deserve our respect. The council agreed. Preparations began. And as the storms rolled across the sky, the people of Yin Thalara waited for the arrival of the strangers from the darkest edge of the galaxy, those mysterious beings the legends warned about. The Deathworlders had heard their cry, and they were coming. The next morning arrived with trembling skies. Pale clouds twisted in strange spirals, pulled by the unstable atmospheric currents that Yin Thalara had been fighting for months. Yet despite the weather, the landing field outside the capital city buzzed with quiet activity. Engineers checked scanners, diplomats practiced their greetings, and the Grand Council stood together in a calm half-circle, waiting. They were waiting for the humans. Elder Saris kept her gaze on the sky. Her tendrils moved in slow waves, a sign of steady but alert thought. Around her stood Trevi, Ralith, and several other counselors, each wearing the traditional silver cloak of formal welcome. Trevi whispered, "Do we have updated estimates?" Ralith checked a small data disk. "The human ship is now entering lower orbit. Landing sequence in 6 minutes." The engineers nearby exchanged nervous looks. The storm winds were growing sharper, making the landing field shimmer with unstable airwaves. Even their own shuttles struggled in such conditions. The thought of an unfamiliar ship landing in this weather made many uneasy. Saris sensed the tension. "Remember," she said softly, "they chose to come despite the storms." As if responding to her words, the clouds above parted for a brief moment. A sleek silver ship descended through the gap, its hull glowing with soft blue light. It was smaller than the council expected, shaped more for speed and durability than beauty. A bold emblem, a simple circle split by a line, shined on the side. The human's symbol. Trevi exhaled slowly. "They are really here." The ship eased downward with surprising control, even as the winds pushed against it. Its landing thrusters activated in smooth bursts, adjusting with precision. Finally, with gentle force, it touched the ground. A quiet hush fell across the entire field. Everyone watched. The ship's side panel slid open. A ramp extended, and then the humans stepped out. The first to appear was a tall figure wearing a dark gray suit that shimmered faintly with protective energy. The suit was practical, not elegant, and carried small lights along the arms. The human's face was uncovered, showing calm brown eyes and light skin touched by faint freckles. Trevi whispered, "That must be their leader." It was. Captain Rowan Hale took his first step onto Yin Thalara. He scanned the storming sky, the trembling ground, and the watching crowd with quiet understanding, as if accepting everything without fear. Behind him followed 3 more humans. A woman with short hair and bright, curious eyes. A tall man carrying a wide tool case. And another woman examining the shimmering air with a portable device. All of them wore sturdy suits marked with the same emblem. They did not look monstrous. They did not look wild. They looked prepared. Elder Saris stepped forward. "Welcome to Yin Thalara, Captain Rowan Hale of Humanity." She bowed politely. "We thank you for answering our call." Rowan returned a respectful nod. "Thank you for receiving us. We come in peace, and we hope we can help." His voice was steady and warm, his manner gentle. The counselors exchanged surprised glances. This was not the fierce creature the legends described. Saris motioned to the council. "These are the members of the High Council. We will escort you to the Capitol Hall to discuss the situation." Rowan smiled politely. "Before we begin meetings, may my team take readings of the local environment? We detected extreme instability as we landed. We want to understand the level of risk to your people." Trevi blinked. "You want to walk into the storm?" Rowan looked up at the shaking clouds. "We've seen worse." The council stared at one another, unsure whether to feel impressed or worried. Within minutes, Rowan's team began their first field survey. The Yinthal escort group followed them at a safe distance, watching every movement with fascination. The wind howled, bending the tall grass around the field. The ground vibrated faintly underfoot. Atmosphere sensors clicked rapidly as strange energy waves pulsed through the air. To the Yinthal, this was nearly unbearable. They had learned to move slowly, cautiously, ready to retreat when the quakes shifted. The humans, however, walked with solid steps, balanced, alert, and steady. The short-haired woman, Dr. Emma Reyes, crouched near a fractured patch of soil. She touched it gently with her gloved hand. Temperature rising, subsurface instability increasing by the hour. The tool-carrying man, technician Marco Fields, opened his case and deployed a spike-like scanner into the ground. The device beeped loudly. Core fractures are active beneath Zone 3 and Zone 4. Pressure rising. Rowan pointed upward. What about the shield nets? The third team member, Lena Hart, held up her scanner. The nets are moments from collapse. They weren't designed for storms of this intensity. The Yeenthal escort group grew anxious. Trevi stepped forward. We already knew most of this. But we do not know how to fix it. Rowan studied the horizon, where the storm clouds bent in unnatural arcs. Then we'll try. The way he said it calmly, without hesitation, made the Yeenthal engineers stare in disbelief. Back at the Capitol Hall, both groups gathered around a long round table. Holographic screens flickered overhead, showing maps of the planet, storm patterns, and core data. Ceres invited Rowan to speak. What is your assessment? She asked. Rowan glanced at Dr. Reyes, who stepped forward. Your planet is strong, Reyes said gently, but it is under pressure from deep within. We believe the instability is caused by old mining tunnels, long abandoned, very deep. They are causing fractures in the crust. The counselors exchanged worried glances. Trevi asked, Can it be repaired? Marco answered, Yes, but it will be difficult. Your shield nets must be reinforced immediately, or the larger cities will be in danger. Ralith frowned. But we tried reinforcing them. The materials could not hold. Lena lifted a small cube device. We brought portable field generators. They can support your nets if we align them carefully. Ceres stared at the cube. That tiny object can do that? Lena smiled modestly. It looks small, but it is strong. The human's confidence was so steady that it eased the tension in the room. Rowan added, We will work with your engineers. We won't change anything without your approval. But we're ready to help. Ceres studied him carefully. His eyes held no arrogance, only sincere intention. Then we welcome your help, she said. Our planet needs it. Work began at once. Human engineers and Yeenthal technicians mixed together in teams across the city. Storm alarms echoed across the skies, but that did not stop the humans. They moved through high winds with natural balance, using firm steps to stabilize themselves. Their suits protected them from energy distortion, allowing them to reach areas that were too dangerous for the Yeenthal. At one shield net tower, Trevi watched Marco climb a trembling support beam with surprising ease. How are you comfortable up there? Trevi called. Marco laughed lightly. Where I grew up, the winds were worse than this. Trevi doubted that, but he couldn't deny the results. Marco placed one of the portable generators against the tower. The device activated with a soft hum. The entire shield net strengthened instantly, glowing brighter and more stable. Trevi gasped. Amazing. Marco jumped down and smiled. Just the beginning. Across the city, Lena and Dr. Reyes worked closely with Yeenthal energy specialists, teaching them how to stabilize local distortion waves using careful calibration. Their instructions were clear and patient, even when the storms interrupted their tools. The Yeenthal engineers whispered among themselves, They are not frightening. They are brave. They do not run from danger. They help without hesitation. And slowly, admiration replaced fear. By evening, the shield nets over the capital were stronger than they had been in months. The windstorms still shook the air, but the nets held without flickering. Buildings no longer trembled. The emergency alarms grew quiet. From the council hall balcony, Ceres watched the humans returning from the field, dusty, tired, and carrying equipment in both hands. Trevi joined her. They worked all day without pause. Ceres nodded. Because they know danger well. She watched Rowan speaking with a group of young Yeenthal students who had gathered to thank the visitors. He knelt to match their eye level and answered their curious questions with patience. The children laughed softly, their colors glowing warmly. They are not at all like the legends, Ceres said. Trevi agreed. No, they are different, Ceres breathed out. Tomorrow we will speak to them about the deeper problem, the core fractures. Trevi's skin flickered with worry. Do you think they can help with something so dangerous? Ceres watched Rowan again. Yes, she said softly. I believe they can, because humanity had not only answered their cry, they had walked straight into the storm, and they had not once stepped back. The days following the arrival of the human team were some of the busiest and most uncertain in Yin Thalara's history. The city's shield nets had been stabilized. The storm winds were still fierce, but the worst was now over. Still, every Yinthal citizen felt the weight of the disaster that loomed in the deep heart of their planet. Though Rowan and his team had proved themselves capable, one problem still lay unresolved: the destabilizing core. It had always been a quiet concern, hidden beneath the surface. But now, it was no longer a distant fear. It was a ticking bomb. On the third day after their arrival, the Grand Council convened again. Inside the Capitol Hall, tension filled the air. The Yinthal had gathered with the humans, their faces somber. Elder Saris stood at the head of the room, her tendrils twitching with unease. Rowan stood before the council, his expression serious but calm. Behind him, his team was ready, tools and scanners at hand. The council had requested a private meeting, and they had arrived prepared. Saris cleared her throat. "Captain Hale, we have an urgent matter to discuss. Our planet's core, as we mentioned before, is destabilizing. The fractures we've detected beneath the surface are spreading. If they reach critical points, the entire planet may—" "I know," Rowan interrupted gently. "We've seen the readings." His eyes flicked over to Dr. Reyes, who was already reviewing a series of holographic data points. "The core fractures are far more dangerous than we anticipated," she added. "The deeper we go, the more unstable it becomes." Saris exchanged a glance with her fellow council members. "But your people are known to survive extreme environments. If anyone can help, it is you. Can your technology handle this?" Rowan's jaw tightened. "We've faced planetary crises before. But I'll be honest. This kind of situation, it's beyond our usual capacity. What you're asking for is unprecedented." A ripple of quiet shock moved through the council. "You mean it cannot be fixed?" Trevi asked, his voice barely a whisper. "It can be," Rowan replied. "But not easily. Not without risking the lives of everyone involved." Lena Hart, the technician, stepped forward and activated a large holographic map of the planet's crust. It displayed a web of fractures, each one pulsing with dangerous energy. "There are two main fractures," Lena explained, pointing to the largest ones on the map. "Both are near the oceanic plate, close to what you call Zone 5. If these cracks widen too much, they'll destabilize the entire core. We'll have less than a day to react before the worst happens." Saris's tendrils fluttered nervously. "We have less than a day?" "Possibly less," Rowan confirmed. "That's the best estimate we can give, based on what we've seen so far." A tense silence followed, the weight of the situation sinking in. Trevi looked out the window toward the storm clouds swirling above. "And what do you suggest?" Rowan's voice was low and steady. "We can attempt a deep drilling operation to stabilize the fractures. It's risky, but it's the only option we have. We'll need to send a crew down into the planet's lower layers, into the deepest sections of the crust. We'll need to use both human and Yinthal technology to make it work." Saris frowned. "That sounds dangerous." "It will be," Rowan said. "But the longer we wait, the less chance we have of saving your planet." The council exchanged looks. Every Yinthal in the room had their own thoughts, but none of them dared speak the truth aloud. They were terrified. The idea of sending anyone into the planet's unstable depths was a gamble, and they had never trusted outsiders with something so vital to their world. Ralith, the lead engineer, spoke up. "We have been studying your methods, Captain, but your technology requires precision and control we are not sure we can provide. We are not accustomed to working in such hazardous conditions." Rowan's gaze softened. "I understand. But we've got the tools, and we've got the expertise. My team will handle the dangerous parts. We'll train your engineers to help with the stabilization, but the actual drilling has to be done by professionals." For the first time in days, Saris stood from her seat, her tendrils shifting from side to side. You are asking us to trust you with the life of our entire planet. Rowan met her gaze without hesitation. I'm asking you to trust that we can do this. If we don't act now, the core will tear this world apart, and you'll lose everything. But if we work together, humans and Yeenthal, we might just make it. There was a long pause before Saris spoke again, her voice quieter now. I am afraid, not of your technology, but of what we risk by trusting you. Rowan understood. He didn't take offense. He had seen fear before, and he knew it wasn't about him or his people, it was about survival. The Yeenthal had lived for generations in relative peace, never facing a catastrophe like this. Now, they had to put their faith in strangers. I know this is difficult, Rowan said. But we are here to help. And if we fail together. But if we succeed, your world will survive. At last, Saris sighed, a long, slow exhalation that seemed to release the tension from her body. Very well. We will trust you. We will help in any way we can. A few of the counselors looked uncertain, but Saris's decision carried weight. They nodded reluctantly, signaling their agreement. Rowan exhaled in relief. Thank you. We'll begin preparations immediately. The drilling operation began the very next day. Human and Yeenthal teams worked side by side, preparing equipment and testing safety protocols. The humans brought their most advanced machinery, which was a mix of tools designed for harsh environments, and the Yeenthal added their own expertise in planetary geology and energy management. Lena Hart, who had become the bridge between the two teams, worked tirelessly alongside Trevi. Together, they calibrated sensors, adjusted pressure gauges, and ran simulations to ensure they could handle the intense forces beneath the planet's surface. As the day progressed, a team of Yeenthal engineers and human technicians geared up for the dangerous task ahead. The deepest fracture, near Zone 5, was located several kilometers beneath the ocean floor, where the pressure was immense and the heat unbearable. The teams would have to lower a series of reinforced drilling units into the fracture zone to relieve the pressure and prevent further damage. Saris watched from a distance as the human team worked, her mind racing with thoughts of the risk they were about to take. She had agreed to this, trusted them, but a part of her still doubted. The Yeenthal had never faced a threat like this. No one had. The air was heavy with anticipation. At the heart of the operation, Rowan stood beside Dr. Reyes and Marco Fields, overseeing the final adjustments to the drilling rig. The machines hummed softly. Ready to begin. Ready to go? Rowan asked his team. Ready as we'll ever be, Marco said, his eyes scanning the control panels. Once we start this, we won't be able to turn back. Rowan nodded. I know. But we have to move forward. There's no other choice. Dr. Reyes checked the final readings. Pressure in the deep core is rising. If we don't do this soon, the planet will crack wide open. Rowan turned to the waiting Yeenthal engineers. Are you ready? Trevi stepped forward, his skin flickering with nervous energy. We are ready to help. Tell us what to do. Rowan smiled faintly. Just follow our lead and stay close. With that, the team began the slow descent into the depths of Yeenthalara's planet. The deep drilling operation was unlike anything the Yeenthal had ever experienced. The pressure from the planet's core was unbearable. Every moment felt like they were pushing against the heartbeat of the planet itself, urging it not to explode. The walls of the deep tunnel cracked and groaned as the drilling machines broke through layers of rock and metal. The Yeenthal engineers were amazed at how the humans handled the pressure both literally and figuratively. Their equipment worked flawlessly, their instructions precise and clear. The humans were calm under pressure, acting with an ease that made the Yeenthal wonder how many times they had done this before, and yet no one dared relax. The danger was still very real. Rowan's voice crackled over the radio, calm and steady. We're almost there. Get ready. The ground beneath them rumbled again, harder this time. It was a warning. The core was shifting. They had no more time to waste. The earth trembled beneath their feet. Louder now, more urgent. The core of Yeenthalara was waking up, fighting to break free from the chains of its own instability. The deep drilling team, both human and Yeenthal, felt it with every passing moment. The tension in the air grew thicker, like a storm building on the horizon. Captain Rowan Hale stood in the lead control station, eyes locked on the screens displaying the planet's core data. Dr. Reyes worked beside him, adjusting controls with practiced precision. The drilling rig was in place, deep in the belly of the planet, and every action they took was a race against time. "Pressure levels are rising faster than expected, Dr. Reyes reported, her voice tight with concentration. "The fractures in the lower crust are expanding at an alarming rate," Rowan nodded grimly. "We need to stabilize those fractures, now." He turned to Marco Fields, who was operating the drilling equipment. "How much longer?" Marco's fingers flew across the controls. "The rig is down as deep as it can go, but it needs a few more meters to reach the pressure points. We're not getting the feedback we need yet. Do we have time?" Rowan asked, his voice steady despite the growing panic. Marco hesitated for just a moment before answering. "Not much. The core's shifting is making everything unstable. If we don't act soon, we'll lose our window." Rowan's mind raced. He knew they couldn't keep drilling forever. The pressure was building too quickly. But he also knew that if they stopped now, Yin Thalara might not survive. He turned to Lena Hart, who had been working with the Yinthal engineers to recalibrate the stabilization devices. "Lena, how's the stabilization field holding up?" Lena adjusted the settings on her portable device, her expression focused. "It's working, but it's fragile. The pressure is overwhelming. Captain, if we don't relieve it soon, we might lose the shields entirely." Rowan's heart pounded in his chest. His mind was clear, but every instinct screamed at him to act. He turned back to Dr. Reyes. "Do we have a safe zone? A place we can drill without completely risking collapse?" Reyes looked over the data, her brow furrowing in thought. "There's a possibility. It's risky, but we can drill a secondary line. Redirect the pressure. It might buy us enough time." "Then do it," Rowan ordered. "Do it now." With that, the team set to work. The human and Yinthal engineers worked in seamless coordination, their movements swift but controlled, the weight of the situation pressing down on them. They adjusted the drilling path, shifted the angle, and began recalibrating the stabilization devices. Outside, the air hummed with the sound of the storm. The winds howled like a pack of wild animals. Relentless and untamed, the planet seemed to be alive, thrashing against the efforts of those who dared to save it. Meanwhile, Sarah stood at the observation window, watching the chaos unfold outside. She could feel the rumblings of the planet deep beneath her feet, the sound echoing like thunder in her bones. Her tendrils flickered nervously as she watched the humans and her people work together. The humans were brave, there was no denying that. They had faced danger head-on, not once hesitating, not once questioning their course. Cirrus admired them for it. She had feared their arrival, feared what they might bring with them. But now, watching them work, she realized how much they had already brought. Hope. "Do you think they'll succeed?" Trevi asked softly, standing next to her. Cirrus didn't answer right away. She simply watched as Rowan, Dr. Reyes, and the others worked tirelessly. Finally, after a long pause, she spoke. "I believe in them," she said quietly. "And I believe in us. We've fought for this planet for so long. We won't give up now." Back at the drilling site, the team worked with everything they had. Sweat dripped down their faces, their suits stained and battered from the harsh conditions. But there was no time to rest. Rowan's eyes flicked over the controls again. The new drilling path had been initiated, and the pressure readings were finally showing signs of stabilization. But it was too early to celebrate. "Pressure's beginning to drop," Marco said, his voice laced with cautious optimism. "We might be doing this." Lena leaned over the console, checking the data once more. "It's holding. Just a little longer." The ground rumbled again, louder this time. The vibration shook the entire drilling platform. Rowan's eyes snapped to the control panel. "What was that?" Dr. Reyes' voice came over the comms, strained. "It's a feedback wave. The pressure's pushing back. We can't hold it much longer. The lights flickered, and the entire structure groaned under the strain. Rowan clenched his jaw and motioned to his team. We need to reinforce the stabilization units, now. Without hesitation, the humans and Yeenthal engineers sprang into action, rushing to reinforce the pressure shields, adding additional layers to the equipment, and recalibrating the drilling device to handle the increased stress. The air was thick with the noise of machinery working at maximum capacity. Each click, each hum felt like a countdown. Rowan's heart raced. They were so close he could feel it, but they had no time left. On the surface, Ceres stood on the balcony, looking up at the storm clouds swirling violently above. The winds had increased in speed, the atmospheric waves warping the air around them. It was as though the planet itself was trying to break free. "We can't wait much longer," Trevi said, his voice full of concern. "What if they fail?" Ceres's eyes remained fixed on the horizon. "We have to believe they won't fail. We have to trust them." For a long moment, no one spoke. The tension was unbearable. The planet was on the brink, but at that moment, a signal flashed across the communication screen. "Captain Hail to Ceres," came Rowan's voice, clear and strong. "We've done it. We've stabilized the core. The pressure is dropping, and the fractures are closing." Ceres's tendrils flickered with disbelief, then relief. "You did it?" "We did," Rowan confirmed. "The worst is over. The planet is safe." A cheer went up in the command center, followed by a ripple of joy from the Yeenthal engineers. Ceres closed her eyes for a moment, letting the weight of the news sink in. "We are saved," Trevi whispered. Ceres nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. She turned toward the view of the storm outside. It was still wild, still chaotic, but it no longer felt like the end. The storm was simply a storm now, not a harbinger of destruction. The planet had survived. "We are saved," she repeated softly. In the days that followed, Yeenthal began its slow recovery. The storms lessened, the shield nets held steady, and the planet's core gradually returned to a more stable state. The relief across the planet was palpable. For the first time in months, the people of Yeenthal felt hope instead of fear. The humans, too, began preparing to leave. They had accomplished what they had come to do. The planet was safe. But before they left, Captain Rowan Hale and his team met with the Grand Council one final time. "You have our eternal gratitude," Ceres said, her voice filled with sincerity. "Without your help, we would not have survived." Rowan smiled, his tired eyes gleaming. "It was our honor. You've earned your survival. We're just glad we could help." Trevi stepped forward, extending a hand. "If ever you need anything, you have our word that we will be there." Lena Hart smiled. "It's good to have made new friends." Marco nodded. "We'll be watching from afar. But don't forget, if you need us again, don't hesitate to call." The Yeenthal stood silently, their faces full of emotion. They had called for help, and they had received more than they could have imagined. They had received humanity. As the human team boarded their ship and prepared to leave, Ceres watched them one last time. She had feared them when they first arrived. She had worried they might bring more destruction than help. But now, standing in the presence of those who had saved her world, she knew the truth. Humanity was not a force of chaos. It was a force of survival, and the galaxy would never look at Deathworlders the same way again. As the human ship disappeared into the vastness of space, Ceres stood at the edge of the balcony, watching the stars. The storm clouds above were slowly parting, revealing the first clear sky the planet had seen in months. The planet was safe, and the future felt full of possibility. And as she gazed into the endless void of space, she knew one thing for certain. The galaxy had just learned the meaning of true resilience. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they had saved them all.